The letter arrived on a gray December morning when the widowed CEO, Daniel Hartman, was buried beneath mountains of paperwork that never seemed to end. His assistant hesitated before placing the tiny pink envelope on his desk, its corners uneven as if cut by small hands. Written in bright red crayon were the words, "To Santa, at the corner office." Daniel almost brushed it aside, assuming it was a holiday joke from a department, but something, perhaps the clumsy handwriting, made him open it. Inside was a short note from a little girl named Mia, asking Santa for something no other child had asked him before: "Please come check on my mom. She works too much and cries at night. I think she needs a Christmas miracle." Daniel read the note twice, then a third time, feeling each word echo inside the hollow place grief had carved out in him since his wife died 2 years earlier. He imagined a little girl watching her mother unravel quietly, the way his own son had watched him in the early days of loss. He couldn't ignore the letter. It carried a weight far heavier than childish wishfulness. The return address was scribbled at the bottom, an old apartment building on Maple Street. He found himself wondering about the mother, someone working in one of his departments, perhaps unnoticed, overwhelmed, forgotten. The thought gnawed at him, refusing to let go. Throughout the day, Daniel attempted to return to his responsibilities, signing contracts, approving budgets, and listening to executives argue over holiday production schedules. But the pink envelope remained stubbornly centered on his desk. Each time his eyes drifted toward it, he imagined little Mia waiting, believing, hoping. Santa at the corner office, the phrase tugged at him unexpectedly. His wife used to tell him that leadership meant showing up for the people no one sees. Somewhere along the way, he had stopped doing that. Maybe this little letter was the reminder he needed. That evening, long after the building emptied and city lights glittered under falling snow, Daniel finally rose from his chair, the envelope tucked into his coat pocket. He instructed security he would be stepping out without the driver and took the elevator down alone. The cold wind slapped him awake as he crossed the quiet streets. Something about walking to meet a stranger on Christmas week made him feel more human than he had in years. He rehearsed words in his mind. How exactly does a CEO explain knocking on a door because a little girl mistook him for Santa? When Daniel reached the worn brick building on Maple Street, he climbed the stairs, gripping the railing dusted with frost. Apartment 3B had a paper snowman taped to the door, colored outside the lines. Before he could knock, he heard tiny footsteps pattering inside. Then, silence. The nervous kind. He smiled despite himself. Gently, he tapped his knuckles against the door. It opened just a crack, revealing a small girl with wide brown eyes and messy ponytails. She gasped the moment she saw him. His white coat, his silver hair, the gift bag he carried. "Santa," she whispered, hopeful and trembling. Daniel knelt so he was eye to eye with her. "I'm not Santa," he said softly, "but I got your letter." Mia covered her mouth, shocked yet thrilled. Behind her, a tired-looking woman appeared, dark circles under her eyes, still wearing her work uniform with the company logo, unaware that the CEO of her entire corporation was kneeling in her hallway. "Mia, honey, who is?" She froze when she recognized him. "Mr. Hartman. Oh my God, did something happen at work? Am I being fired?" Her fear was palpable, immediate, and heartbreaking. Daniel quickly shook his head. "No, not at all. I came because of this." He held up the pink envelope. The mother's face turned red, as she realized what her daughter had done. "I'm so sorry," she said, pulling Mia gently behind her. "She must have mailed it without telling me. She worries. I didn't expect." But Daniel raised his hand, stopping her apology. "Your daughter wasn't asking for toys," he said. "She was asking for help for you." The moment he said it, her breath hitched, and she blinked hard, fighting back tears. He stepped into their small apartment only after she gave a hesitant nod. The living room was neat but sparsely furnished, decorated with homemade ornaments and paper stars Mia had clearly cut out herself. A worn sofa stood near a tiny artificial tree, leaning slightly, missing its top branch, but glowing warmly. Daniel felt a lump rise in his throat. This wasn't a home lacking love, it was one lacking time, rest, and support. He recognized exhaustion etched into the mother's posture, an exhaustion he knew too well. Her name was Elena, and she explained haltingly that she worked double shifts in the company's customer operations department, covering for 2 employees who had quit. She didn't complain, she simply stated facts. Rent, groceries, school supplies, everything had become heavier since her husband passed away the previous year. "I didn't want anyone's pity," she said quietly. "I just wanted Mia to have a good Christmas." Mia, hearing her mother's voice tremble, squeezed her hand, trying to comfort her in the only way a child knows. Daniel sat across from them, feeling the familiar ache of shared grief. "You're not alone," he said gently. "I know what it's like to lose someone and still have to pretend you're okay because someone depends on you." His words stunned Elena. She had seen him only as her unreachable CEO, not as a widower holding his own scars. She relaxed slightly, as though those few truthful sentences had unlocked something fragile inside her. Mia climbed into her mother's lap, eyes fixed on Daniel as if waiting for him to do something magical. Daniel leaned forward slightly, the warmth from the small Christmas lights flickering across his face. "Mia's letter wasn't a complaint," he said. "It was an act of love. She asked Santa for something she thought only magic could give, a happier mom." Elena's eyes shimmered, her composure cracking under the truth she always kept hidden. The apartment fell silent except for the hum of a small heater struggling to warm the room. Daniel looked around, at the taped-up drawings, the stack of unopened bills on the counter, the tired slump of Elena's shoulders, and felt something inside him shift. "You shouldn't have to carry everything alone," he added softly. Elena took a shaky breath. "I didn't want to ask anyone for help. I've seen coworkers get replaced for being too overwhelmed. I thought if I worked harder, no one would notice how close I was to falling apart." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know she mailed that letter. I would have stopped her." But Mia leaned forward and shook her head defiantly. "Mommy needed help, and Santa listens, and you look like Santa. But not old," she added quickly, making Daniel chuckle for the first time that night. The small joke loosened the heaviness in the room. After a moment, Daniel addressed Elena gently but firmly. "Your dedication shouldn't be punished. It should be supported." She frowned with confusion as he continued. "Starting tomorrow, you're being moved to a daytime schedule with full assistance from additional staff. I'll personally ensure your workload is reduced to reasonable levels." Elena's mouth opened, but no sound came out, just a gasp. She tried to protest, but Daniel held up a hand. "This isn't charity. This is correction. The system failed you. Your daughter shouldn't have had to step in." Elena's shoulders trembled, the weight she had carried alone for so long suddenly feeling lighter. "Thank you," she whispered, overwhelmed. "I don't know what to say." Daniel smiled gently. "You don't have to say anything. Just breathe. Let someone help for once." Mia, sensing the mood, crawled off her mother's lap and opened the gift bag Daniel had brought. Inside were art supplies, warm mittens, a storybook, and a small necklace shaped like a star. "For me?" she asked, eyes wide. "For you," he replied, "because your letter changed someone's Christmas too." As Mia spun around the living room showing off her treasures, Daniel walked to the window. Snow was falling softly, blanketing the quiet street below. He felt something stir inside him, a feeling he hadn't felt since his wife passed away. Maybe hope, maybe purpose, maybe both. When he turned back, Elena was watching him with gratitude mixed with curiosity. "Why did you really come?" she asked quietly. He hesitated before answering. "Because your daughter reminded me that people still believe kindness can come from unexpected places. And I realized I want to be one of those places again." They talked for nearly an hour. About their children, about grief, about the exhaustion of pretending everything was fine. Elena shared how she used to love baking before work consumed her life. Daniel shared how he still kept his wife's favorite ornaments in a box because he couldn't bring himself to hang them. There was no awkwardness, only the fragile understanding of two people who had walked through similar shadows. Mia eventually curled up on the sofa, drifting to sleep with her new storybook clutched in her arms. Not wanting to overstay, Daniel stood to leave. But before he reached the door, Elena stopped him. "Mr. Hartman," she said softly, "thank you, not just for coming, but for seeing us." He shook his head. "Call me Daniel, and thank your daughter. She's braver than most adults I know." Elena smiled, tired but genuine. "She takes after her dad, she murmured. Daniel paused, sensing the pain beneath the words, and simply nodded. Sometimes silence was the kindest response. He left the apartment with a heart unexpectedly heavy and full at the same time. As he descended the chilly stairwell, he replayed the evening in his mind. The smallness of their home, the strength of Alina's resolve, the innocence in Mia's belief. Something in him had been awakened. The city felt different now as he walked back through the snow, the letter still in his pocket. He touched it lightly, like a reminder. Maybe the world still had room for miracles, quiet ones, handwritten in crayon. Back at the office the next morning, Daniel called a meeting with department heads. They were confused. Meetings on Christmas week were rare. He informed them sharply yet calmly that employee support systems were being restructured immediately. Burnout, understaffing, and neglect would no longer be brushed aside. Some executives tried to argue about budgets and timing, but Daniel shut them down. People aren't replaceable, he said. If our employees can't breathe, our company can't grow. No one dared challenge the conviction in his voice. He spent the next few days quietly approving bonuses for staff who had taken extra shifts, ensuring Alina's schedule was updated, and instructing HR to provide her with additional benefits. But he didn't stop thinking about her or Mia. Something about that small apartment on Maple Street tugged at him relentlessly. He told himself it was empathy, responsibility, gratitude, but there was something else too. Something he hadn't let himself feel in years. On Christmas Eve, unable to shake the feeling, Daniel stopped at a local bakery and picked up a box of pastries he remembered his wife used to love. He told himself it was a simple gesture, a holiday visit to a family who reminded him of kindness. Yet he knew it was more than that. As he approached apartment 3B again, carrying the warm box wrapped with string, he felt oddly nervous. Before he knocked, he heard laughter inside, Alina's and Mia's. It was gentle, soft, fragile, but real. When Elena opened the door, she seemed brighter, still tired but lighter, as if relief itself had settled on her shoulders. "You came back," she said, surprised yet pleased. Daniel lifted the pastry box. "I brought a small gift. I thought you two might like these." Mia ran to him, hugging his legs before he had time to react. "Santa came back," she cheered. Elena laughed, shaking her head. "She's convinced you're the real one now." Daniel grinned. "Well, I do have a corner office." They invited him inside without hesitation this time. The apartment smelled of cinnamon and newly opened decorations. The tiny tree now had a star on top, the one from Mia's necklace box, repurposed. She wanted the tree to have a wish too, Elena explained. Daniel felt warmth spread through him. They ate pastries together, talked, laughed, and slowly, naturally, the weight of grief loosened its grip on all of them. It was the first Christmas Eve in years that didn't feel empty. As the evening wore on, snow thickened outside the window. Elena watched Mia fall asleep for the second time that week, curled up in a blanket near the glowing tree. "She adores you," Elena whispered. Daniel nodded, watching the peaceful child. "She saved me more than I saved her," he admitted. Elena's eyes softened. "You saved me too. I didn't realize how close I was to breaking until someone finally noticed." Daniel met her gaze, feeling the warmth between them deepen, unexpected but welcome. Eventually, Daniel knew he had to leave, though a part of him wished he didn't. As he stood near the door, Elena touched his arm lightly, a simple gesture, but filled with unspoken meaning. "You're welcome here anytime," she said. "Not as a CEO. As Daniel." He swallowed hard, emotion catching him off guard. "I'd like that," he replied quietly. For the first time in years, he felt not like a businessman weighed down by grief, but a man stepping towards something new. Walking home through the snow, Daniel felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt since before his wife's passing. The city lights shimmered like 1,000 tiny wishes. He realized that the letter addressed to Santa at the corner office had done more than pull him out of work. It had pulled him out of a life where he simply existed instead of living. And he wasn't ready to let that feeling go. The next morning, Christmas Day, Daniel arrived at Elena's apartment once more, this time with a small wrapped box for her. Inside was a bracelet with a charm shaped like a tiny snowflake. "For new beginnings," he said. Elena's eyes filled with tears, but they were warm, not heavy. "You already gave us that," she whispered. Mia jumped excitedly between them. Does this mean Santa is part of our family now? She asked. Daniel laughed. Really laughed, and gently ruffled her hair. If your mom agrees, he said. Elena met his eyes with a soft, hopeful smile that said everything without words. In that moment, Daniel realized that magic didn't come from red suits or flying reindeer. It came from connections, from compassion, from small brave acts like a little girl writing to someone she believed could fix the world. And maybe, just maybe, he could. As they stood together in that tiny apartment filled with paper stars and glowing lights, Daniel knew one thing for certain. Christmas had brought him not just a letter, but a second chance at life, love, and family.